Hey traders, this is Ron at Market Tamer. Happy Thursday. Hope you guys are having a great day. As always, everything in this presentation is for educational purposes only. We'll start out here with the Qs down about 0.5%, but way off the lows. We were down at 188. I mean, that's not a huge move in the grand scheme of things. It was a yawner basically by day's end, but we're still above the 50-day and we're below the 20. I would say caution is warranted. If I zoom out here a little bit, we get back below the 50 here on a closing basis, we would come down to where some of these lows are, maybe around 182, and then maybe the 200-day coming up here towards 180. So basically, 180, 182 would be the target if we get back below the 50-day. If we take a look at the SPY, it was down about 0.25%. Intraday, you can see that dip down, but we closed back up, but still below the red line. We're still below the 20-day EMA. So now the 20-day period goes back to being bearish. We're just playing hot potato here with that red line. Continue to watch that 294 area, which is where the 50-day institutional moving average is. We breach that on a closing basis, then we start coming back down towards 284, which is 100 points on the S&P or $10 on the spiders. Looking at the diamonds, down about 0.25% too, still above the red, but below the blue. The blue's the 8-day, red's the 20-day. Again, watch 266, that's the 50-day, that's the big one. Below there, target 200-day. That would be about an 800-point or so drop in the Dow. Now, I had a question if I actually go back to the SPY, and that was on bearish engulfing, and it did or did not work. Which is it? When you get bearish engulfing, you basically want a confirmation day. So if I look at this chart here and I come back to the left, right in here towards beginning of August. What is that day? July 31st. We bearish engulfed the previous day, which would have been the 30th, right? And then we moved lower. That was the confirmation. A second down day is what you want. You never know how far the stock or whatever it is you're watching is going to drop. There's no way to calculate that with any accuracy. But there was follow through for what it's worth. Now, over here, we had bearish engulfing, right? We had some volume pickup, so that's a good sign. But what ended up happening? Well, we got a bounce, but we still didn't take out the previous high, and now we have another sideways day. So is the bearish engulfing here? Did it work? Did it not work? Number one, nothing's ever going to work 100% of the time. Number two, I wouldn't say this has not, quote, worked yet, just yet. If we end up getting a big down day, or a down day getting back below the 50-day without getting back above this candle, we could still say it played out. Maybe it wasn't as pretty and as easy to see here, but if we don't take out this candle, these are just all inside days, and it's just telling you that, hey, there was a big reversal here, and it just may take a couple days before we see the plunge, and that could be a buck or two on the spiders. It could be $5-6. We have no idea, but I would not say bearish engulfing is dead just yet. Hopefully that's helpful. Great question. All right, how about Apple? Everybody wants to know about Apple. It seems Apple just going sideways. I would still say this is essentially your flagpole in here, and this is the flag that's being traced out. It's still bullish on the daily chart. We had some news with the cruise lines today. Carnival got shellacked about 8%. However, grand scheme of things, if I zoom out, you can see it's had a big fall from grace. It was at what, $70+ earlier part of 18. Now here we sit around 43.95. There's some spike down lows at maybe near 40, then down 35. But as it stands now, if I zoom back in, just keep an eye on those lows, 42.5. Below there, that would open up the next door. If I go back, right, below 42.5 towards 40 and then down here. But it's definitely bearish. And you can really see how these lower highs and the lower lows, it's not perfectly symmetrical, but I mean, there's no way to be bullish longer term on this chart right now. We're looking back, it looks like what? July, almost 2 years worth of data, and it's still consistently lower. If we take a look at RCL, which is Royal Caribbean, same time frame, 2 years, they were down, but they printed a bit of a doji. They tried to get above the 200-day, just earlier this month, and they could only do it for 1 day, and they rolled right back over. The target low would be about $100. Let's see what happens. If we zoom out, we get below 100. Hey, there's a pocket all the way down. Geez, I got to zoom out further to 90. That would be going back to the Christmas Eve lows from this past year. So below 100, target 90. That's a 10% drop. Maybe that is something I'd want to keep an eye on, because that might be an interesting reward to risk ratio as it unfolds. The Mouse House had a question on this one too. What's going on with Disney? I talked about it the other day. We have this head and shoulders pattern. Basically, you want to watch closing basis about 130, but it's only a $4 drop to 126. I think if I want to be bearish on Disney, let's zoom in a little more here. This 126 area, if I take the low from that gap up back in April and the 200-day, they're almost perfectly aligned right now, about 126.5. We closed below that level, maybe went around it down to 126. The gap fill down to 117. That's $9 or so. That could be interesting. And just emerging markets, a quick check-in on those. I get questions from time to time. And it's still in a downtrending channel. Here's a high, here's a high, there's a high. Those lower highs. There's a low, or here's a low, there's a low, there's a low, lower lows. You can literally see the channel this thing is going in. Right now, if it gets below, where did we finish? Yeah, we finished above the 50-day in orange, but you get below that, it pretty much puts this as the high profile target. And the way it's been going, it's been dropping about a buck or so below. So maybe actually 38 would be the target. And what do you know? There's two other lows in here. So it's just snaking its way lower. This thing is not looking bullish at all. That is it. A little, shorter videos. There's not a whole lot to talk about. Stocks just are not moving a whole lot right now. Apple's sort of hanging loose. The markets are hanging loose, waiting for that move, whether it comes next week. We just wait and see. But definitely caution is warranted across the equity markets until we see which way it's going to break. So have a great Friday and a super weekend ahead. I'll be back with you in Sunday's video. Take care.